everyone, this is Eileen from Only Me, and today I thought it would be nice to give you a little bit more background on why I became a carnivore. I only posted my intro video, so very brief introduction, kind of what I went through with Hashimoto's and leading to the carnivore diet. But today I wanted to give you a little bit more background and kind of what have occurred over time, as well as kind of show you the progress I've made up to this point, because the way that you're seeing me, you're actually seeing me very different from where I started in August 2022, which was about 10 months ago. To start, I have had endocrine problems for a while, and when I was 17, so I think this was 1999, I ended up officially getting diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. At the time though, they did not call it that. When I had diagnostic surgery, and when I came out of surgery, my doctor told my mom and I that I had what they called Stein-Leventhal syndrome, that it would be something I had for the rest of my life. I would have problems with my period and just all these concerns, kind of what they knew at the time. But at that time, they didn't associate it with the endocrine system. So his response was to first put me on birth control. My body did not agree with birth control. I ended up having those TIA strokes. They're like minor strokes. I had 3 of them. And then when I stopped the birth control, they actually went away, and then I never went back on. That treatment didn't work, but that's all they could offer. It wasn't until my mid-20s when I was in college that they had started prescribing metformin to treat PCOS. My doctor at the time was the one that said that they had this new treatment, it would really work, and it would help regulate my periods, decrease the pain. At that point, no one had been checking my thyroid, and I had great results on it. It helped normalize my period. It didn't do anything for my thyroid, so through my 20s into my 30s, my thyroid levels began to climb higher and higher. I think that they've changed this, but a normal range, I believe, is like 0.5 up to 3.99 or 4 point something. I'll put it here if I can find it. And at that time, my thyroid had went up to like 5.7, and that was in my mid-30s. So the doctor at the time said that, you know, I could consider going on Synthroid, but it was basically I was considered subclinical hypothyroid. It was still kind of iffy, I think, with subclinical whether Synthroid would work or not. And it wasn't until the past 3 years that it blew up on me. Even though I was taking metformin for PCOS, thyroid levels continued to climb. And these are some of the things I mentioned in the intro video, but what started happening to me was scary. And yeah, this started in about, I would say 2019. I started to get what I thought was significant panic attacks. And now I don't even know if they were panic attacks or if it was actually just a rush of hormones, because my heart would start racing. It was completely uncontrollable. And because it was racing, I would like almost lose my breath. I would go on, and it was like I was in danger, but I clearly wasn't. I would just be sitting at work, sitting at home, and then my whole body would just respond with that like feeling you get when you're like physically in danger. And you know how you just like, you have that rush of hormones, of cortisol, of adrenaline. That's what it felt like. It got like increasingly worse. Sometimes it would happen multiple times a day, which was starting to freak me out. I was beginning to worry about my heart. The other thing that started happening was I got really disjointed. So the left and right sides of my body, I felt like they weren't communicating. It was just, and I think I might have said this maybe in the intro video, but it was literally like I was 2 people, like 2 separate people that were just some reason like walking within the same body. And I felt like I couldn't find my center of like my physical center of gravity. And that started to scare me because I am an occupational therapist. So I did spend a long time studying neuroscience and neurology. And we had to learn about all the neurological conditions that we might treat as an OT, such as MS or anterior lateral sclerosis, right? ALS. So because I had all this knowledge in my head, I started to freak out thinking, oh man, some of what I'm experiencing is really similar to what I learned in school about the beginning stages of ALS or MS. So for a while, I actually was like worried that I was developing a neurodegenerative condition, because besides that like splitting feeling, I also started to have severe joint pain. So I started to have something wrong with my shoulder, and it got to the point where I couldn't strength train anymore, because just trying to do push-ups or put any like force or load onto my shoulder joint would cause severe pain. So I basically just stopped. And this was about the time where I started going to the doctor more, because I was just having all kinds of stuff. So I went to the doctor for my shoulder, referral to physical therapy. PT and the physical therapy, I mean, there wasn't really anything wrong. So they treated it, but really it wasn't doing anything and the pain just wasn't going away. I started to then have problems with swollen joints. So like my finger joint would swell, my ankles would swell, and it would just be like, I'd wake up one day and my joints would just be swollen. There hadn't been anything that occurred to make it happen. I started to have plantar fasciitis. The bottom of my foot would hurt and I could barely walk on it. And it's always worse in the morning. So if you have plantar fasciitis, you might know this, but because at night, the way you're sleeping with your foot flexed, when you wake up in the morning and you put it back into the position of for walking, that's when you tend to feel the most pain. And that's exactly what would happen. Like I would get out of bed in the morning and I barely put any weight on my foot because it hurt so bad. So I started having pains on top of my foot. Now that's another condition of the joint on the name, so I'll add it here. Started to experience that. And again, because I'm an OT, I did a little bit of training with kinesio tape. So I was taping my foot for a while and that helped. But then again, I went back to the doctor, again, complaining with more joint pains. I started having other problems, severe memory loss. I was trying to get pregnant at the time. So I was going to my doctor more because we were just checking all my levels. My thyroid had actually elevated to about 8 and really suggested synthroid, but I was a little bit scared. I started going to the doctor more. And again, it was just the joint pain, the memory loss. I started to have significant hair loss. So like this area, and it's really hard to see because of the blonde hair, but this whole area I started to lose hair. And like actually all this hair growth right here is from ever since I've been on the carnivore diet. So a couple months starting into carnivore, this whole patch of hair started growing back. Now I have this like weird little fuzzy short hair right here. That was all disappearing. Hair loss, the memory loss, the joint pain, the disjointed feeling. What else? Oh, I was having what I now know is called Hashimoto flare-ups. I did not know what was happening at the time. It started happening pretty bad throughout 2020 and 2021. It was like I could barely, almost like when you get the flu and you're really achy in your muscles, but I wasn't sick. But every muscle ache, there was like just shooting pains that would go through my nerves and you can't really get to your nerves. So I would like squeeze and rub on my arms and limbs, like trying to get the pain away, but it wasn't working. It would last for like 3 days. I was in so much physical pain that I couldn't do anything. I would pretty much lay in bed and cry. And there was a couple of times where I thought, oh my gosh, I think I must have MS. And after 2 or 3 days, it would go away. And then it would, it kind of came and went randomly. What caused me to get officially diagnosed with Hashimoto's was that me and my husband at the time, we wanted to have a baby. And so I went back to the doctor to just get everything checked. My doctor did find like, okay, your thyroid levels are now at like, I think they were at 8.5 or 8.7. And she suggested synthroid, but I was so scared to take synthroid that I refused. And she kind of talked to me about like, if you want to be successful and have a baby, you have to go on synthroid, but I resisted. And I did have a family member who is a nutritionist and suggested that I go on a vegan diet and took iodine supplements to naturally help lower the thyroid. And so I took her advice. I started eating extra iodine and I started going vegan. Like I cut out on meat, and I would say within 2 to 3 months, so that would say this would be by the fall, I ended up in the ER. I thought that my intestines were blocked. The pain was so bad, I could barely function. I was like working all day and it got worse and worse. So I finally went to the ER and to find out that not only there was absolutely nothing. It was totally fine. The ER doctor said my thyroid had actually elevated. I think it was like 9.8. She was like, your thyroid's really high. The MRI showed nothing. It's probably something like irritable bowel syndrome, and it's completely related to your thyroid, and that you probably need to be on synthroid. So this was what drew me to say, okay, you know what, maybe I should just listen. Maybe my thyroid is a problem. I believe I went back to the doctor. She did a full panel at that time, did find that I was making autoantibodies against my thyroid. And I indeed, at that point, was then diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I started synthroid. By that spring, been like several months, it lowered my thyroid from like 9.8, whatever high point it was, down to about 3.8. I did get pregnant by that August of, I'm kind of losing track, I think 2021. But unfortunately in September, I actually lost the baby. And then all this kind of stuff happened. So all through 2022, also going through a divorce, was on the synthroids. However, I was still having joint pain. I still couldn't do much in the way of working out. None of that stuff really truly went away. I felt like loads better on the synthroid. I definitely felt it different. I felt more energy, but some of the stuff that had been inhibiting me before, especially the joint pain or the flare-ups, were still happening. This is like going now into August of 2022, which is my official starting point. And I mentioned this in the intro video, but I was told through a friend learn about it, and I kind of thought at that time like I didn't have anything to lose. My weight was at, as I want to say it was 240. I actually had gotten up to 250 at one point, but I had lost some weight. As the Synthroid kicked in and lowered my thyroid, I lost some weight on my own. I think by the time last August came, I was at already down like 12 pounds. And then I think I was at 238 or 240. And for me, that was like great because I had actually already lost some. This is where I started in month 10. These are the pictures I took on the first day I started the carnivore diet. And at this time, again, I'm still having a shoulder pain. My ankle doesn't hurt as much anymore, but I'm still fatigued, still dealing with just weight gain, that just inability to lose weight no matter how hard I tried. And you can kind of tell in my face, I think I still see it in my face, but it's been going away, that my face was just puffy. So I just like was, inflamed, I think, really. I started carnivore. So within the first 3 months, already noticed progress. I would say through the fall, some of the first things I began to notice was weight loss. So I'd taken these pictures like a few months after, and you can already see like a significant difference. Like my shape is starting to change. Then I started noticing that hair patch was coming back. My energy was through the roof. My face was thinning out. And all of this has just continued and just gets better and better. I started going back to the gym in the winter. So I want to say I started going back in the gym around January. And the shoulder pain that I have just dealt with for years, that was unexplained, it just disappeared. And because of that, I was able to start strength training again, and I was able to work out again. And there's like this positive feedback loop, right? Because I'm not eating anything that's inflaming me anymore. I did kind of struggle. I did eat fruits and vegetables. It took me like the course of this 10 months to fully accept not eating fruits and vegetables. That was really hard for me. Putting sugar in my coffee was really hard for me. I feel like I should stop coffee, but I'm still struggling with that. But I've stopped the sugar and I've stopped fruits and vegetables. The past month, I've been super strict and I've continued to see progress. Like last week alone, I've lost 2.4 pounds. And the biggest change I made was I just stopped putting the sugar in my coffee. Just been really strict on carnivore. As you look at these pictures, you're seeing me progress through the past 10 months. Little gains. And at first I was just noticing changes. The hair was growing back. My shoulder pain was gone. I was just way more energy. And my mental health, right? So I've actually been going through a tough 2 years and going through a divorce, dealing with a miscarriage, changing jobs now, right? I'm on my own again. So these things that are huge life stressors, I'm actually amazed at my mental clarity right now. These are things where I think in the past would have landed me there in bed, unable to function, barely functioning, depressed, and I just don't feel that way. I feel happy, I feel positive, I feel motivated, that I feel energetic, so I don't really have the desire to like lay around and I guess I can say mope, because that's something that I tend to do. I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do today. I'm trying to better myself. I want to get in the gym, right? I want to like do whatever I have to do for my day. I have another YouTube channel, so that's, I've been working on that. For me personally, I think I'm crediting the carnivore diet to my mental state, that despite everything I've went through, I'm able to be positive. I am able to manage my stress and anxiety. I no longer have panic attacks. I don't have as much worry as I used to, and I can be more focused, more put together. So all these really helpful things that are really just helping me thrive in life and like redo my life now as a post, I guess, divorced single woman, which is great because I feel hope, and I do credit this with the carnivore diet as well as just the physical hope. So this is kind of where I'm at today. These are the most recent pictures I've taken. It's a difference in my body shape. Also my face, I've been noticing my face is different. Like I said, my hair is changing, and that's just the outside really, but the inside is the energy levels that I've had. I just still can't believe it. Like I said, the mental clarity and focus and the mental health piece, like I feel very positive. I feel well. I mean, I don't know how to say it. I just feel like mentally I feel good. I feel stable. I feel happy. I feel like I love myself, and I just feel like every day I get up and I want to do whatever I need to do to make my life the best it can be. Yeah, just that focus and clarity and peace of mind, the calmness in the mind, which is, very different from being in a state of panic attack and anxiety and worry all the time, right? That's totally changed on the carnivore diet. So the hunger levels, so I know I don't really get hungry at this point, and I do eat some days I eat one big meal a day, and then I'll kind of snack on carnivore stuff throughout the day because I'm working, going to the gym, doing YouTube, doing all this stuff. Other days I do have about 2 meals. I've pretty much replace dinner with working out at the gym or doing YouTube, like whatever the day is. I'm either working out after work or I'm filming a YouTube video. It's been a long road. It's been like, I would say the changes that I've experienced in 10 months blow my mind. So not only am I at like a 40-pound loss at this point, but again, next video we'll go more into the actual like weight loss. We'll go into the measurements loss, and we'll get some starting pictures for the channel so that we can continue to see how I progress over the next several months. Other than those physical things, like I said, the mental, just that mental peace and happiness that I've received the past 10 months, focus, the energy, the disappearance of the joint pain, of the fatigue, no Hashimoto flare-ups, just like getting my life back. This is a little bit more in depth, and I'm super excited to take you along as we continue to go forward. I am sold on it. I've had so much progress at this point, even within the past few weeks, that I just see how it's working. And so I've went strictly meat now. I think my biggest faults at this point are I still drink coffee, and sometimes I do eat like low carb ice cream, or I crave dairy as far as like milk and stuff like that sometimes. Also, I did mention this in the intro video, but I did go to my doctor in February. I had been on the carnivore diet for about 6 months at that point, and I was really curious about like what's going on with my blood work, my thyroid levels. So there is nothing of concern in my blood work. My doctor actually said, she actually made a comment like, wow, this looks really promising. All my nutritional levels were fine. I wasn't lacking any vital nutrients, having been on the carnivore for 6 months at that point. There wasn't anything significantly wrong with my cholesterol. My blood pressure had actually lowered. She said my body mass was significantly down, and my thyroid actually lowered even more. The Synthroid had brought it down to I think about 3.8 or 3.6. I might be wrong with the numbers, but with the carnivore diet, it went down even further to about 3.2. That was really awesome to find. I'm curious to see, and I keep going with this, when I go for my physical next year, will the blood work still show the same? That would be me being on the carnivore diet for like a year and a half at that point, but we're not there yet. So if you are interested in following me on the journey, so I'm really gonna go and kind of show you the progress, because we are talking about dealing with something like Hashimoto's, mental, physical effects that it causes. We are talking about losing a significant amount of weight, and we are talking about just drastically changing really everything about my way of life and of living. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell so you can follow me. Next week, we will delve into the nitty-gritty of all the numbers and create a baseline for the channel. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye.